Hey guys, welcome back to the Cedar Point History Series. Cedar Point has just came up from the ashes after almost dying in the Great Depression. Today, we're going to look at how Cedar Point built two record-breaking roller coasters and set itself on a path to greatness. This is the history of Cedar Point, Episode 3, A Thriving Park. In 1976, Cedar Point would build Corkscrew. Corkscrew was an aero corkscrew coaster that was 85 feet tall, 2,050 feet long, and 48 miles per hour speed. It had three inversions, two of Aero's signature corkscrews, as well as Aero's first vertical loop. It almost had the world's first vertical loop, but was beat to the punch by Magic Mountain's Revolution. The ride's signature corkscrew would span over midway, and it would be one of the first ever coasters to do that. The ride costed $1,750,000 and was very popular for the park. The new corkscrew coaster, which was the first ever to have three inversions, drew many people to Cedar Point. Cedar Point made a lot of money off of corkscrew. Enough that just 2 years later, Cedar Point would build the world's tallest, fastest, and steepest roller coaster. This roller coaster was Gemini. It was a racing aero coaster that was essentially a very large mine train. Gemini featured two separate tracks, the red track and the blue track. Each track was 3,935 feet long. The height of the coaster was 125 feet with a 118-foot drop, and the coaster would travel 60 miles per hour, reaching a drop angle of 55 degrees, which at the time was the world's steepest coaster. The ride's main feature, which drew so many people to the ride, was its dueling factor. This meant that two trains were dispatched at a time to race through the course. There are some parts of the roller coaster where the trains get so close that people will attempt to high-five people on the other train. The ride was very reliable and was extremely popular and very successful, as it still exists today as one of the park's most popular coasters. The following year, Cedar Point would open Gemini's little brother, Junior Gemini, right across from Gemini on the Gemini Midway. This is another old coaster that still exists, now known as Wilderness Run. A fun fact is that the Junior Gemini Kiddie Coaster was actually the first coaster ever built by Intamin, who would later go on to build Millennium Force and Top Thrill Dragster for the park, two amazing and record-breaking coasters. In 1982, Cedar Point would open a new log flume ride called Whitewater Landing. This would replace the original Shoot the Rapids log flume. In 1983, a new ride would be placed at the very front of the park. This ride was an Intamin freefall that would be 131 feet tall and would drop you straight down 60 feet, reaching a speed of 55 miles per hour. This was one of the first ever drop tower style rides, and it was extremely popular throughout its entire run. 2 years later, the park would open yet another popular roller coaster. This roller coaster would be called Avalanche Run. Avalanche Run was a 63-foot tall bobsled coaster with just under 2,000 feet of track. It would reach speeds of 40 miles per hour. Avalanche Run was a popular bobsled coaster, and that same year, the San Francisco earthquake ride was transformed into the Berenstein Bear Country. In 1986, Cedar Point would receive a new CEO of the park, Dick Kinzel. Kinzel would be president and CEO of Cedar Fair right until 2012, with a very successful run in charge of the park. That same year, Cedar Point would open a new river rafting ride called Thunder Canyon. The next year, Cedar Point would open a new roller coaster, which was going to be an arrow swinging suspended roller coaster. This roller coaster was called Iron Dragon, and you can still ride it today under that same name. Iron Dragon would be 2,800 feet long, with a height of 76 feet, reaching speeds of 40 miles per hour. This coaster was a little bit tamer than some of Cedar Point's other coasters, but it served as a good family coaster, which it still does today. The swinging suspended coaster was still a relatively new concept when it was built, so it was very exciting for the park to have a coaster where the cars ran under the track rather than on top of it like traditional roller coasters. Iron Dragon was popular, and in 1988, Cedar Point would construct a whole nother part of the park called Soak City. Soak City was Cedar Point's outdoor water park, and it was constructed near Hotel Breakers. It featured many speed slides, more than 10 body and tube slides, a family raft ride, a water playhouse, and 2 brand new lazy rivers. This new water park was very popular, and Cedar Point continued to thrive, but in 1989, Cedar Point would do something that would change the way roller coasters were built forever. What would this new move be? Find out in the next episode. Thanks guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like on the video as that helps me out quite a bit with the YouTube algorithm. If you liked the video, make sure to subscribe if you want to hear more coaster content just like this. Also, leave a comment about what you learned from the video and your opinion on these roller coasters from Cedar Point. As always, see you in the next one. ZZ Coasters, signing off.